I'm Jen Mulrow, the Community Engagement Manager at College Fashionista, and I am here today with Christine Flammia, the Associate Style Editor at Esquire, and Sandra Nygaard, the Fashion Director of Men's Health, and we are going to be talking all things fashion and publishing today. So thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us.
And we're going to get started right away with college experience. Where did you guys go to school? What did you study? Sandra, do you want to start?
Sure. I went to Rutgers University for undergraduate and studied English, and then I went to graduate school for journalism, and I went to Northwestern for that.
So I started at Boston University as a screenwriting major, actually, and then I transferred halfway through sophomore year to the University of Florida, and I studied journalism and Spanish.
Cool. So do you guys think that your majors really helped you kind of like guide your career paths, or?
I think English was pretty important. I think all the writing for English was really great, and but I mean, I think once I went to journalism school, like then I really was on the path to what I really wanted to do. Right. But having an English background, honestly, it was perfectly great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I actually switched majors because joined a club. It was like the Ed 2010 version of our club at Boston University, and when I joined that, we had taken a trip to New York, and I was like, I don't want to be a screenwriter anymore, like I want to work in journalism. So I think those kind of went hand in hand, like informing each other, but in terms of like actually being helpful in my career, like journalism definitely was. I don't think you have to be a journalism major, but I know now, like if I read somebody's writing, I can tell like whether they were trained in a J school or not.
Interesting. Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question. Do you think that you were involved in any clubs or internships or leadership positions in college that kind of put you on the right track towards your career right now?
So when I was at BU, I was in Ed 2010, and then when I got to Florida, they had this club called Florida Magazine Student Association that was kind of like falling apart. It literally had one member, and they were like a subset of Ed 2010. And I went to the president, and she was like, "I'm gonna graduate. Nobody's part of this club. Like, do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want it." So I kind of like built it back up and made it just into like kind of what I wanted to. I like created a community where none of us knew what we were doing, but trying to figure it out kind of together. Right. So that was super helpful. We kind of were able to connect with people in the industry, both locally and in New York, which is where a lot of them would hope to be one day.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
And let's talk first jobs. How did you guys land that first elusive position? Sandra?
Unlike Christine, who was really directed and motivated in undergrad, I kind of went like the circuitous route. I didn't do any of that stuff. Like I was kind of challenged financially, so I was always working. And a lot of the internships and kind of cool activities that were journalism based, they didn't pay. So I had a series of jobs in undergraduate, and then I figured once I graduate from school, I'll figure it out. I'll take, I'll decide what I want to do. So I had a series of jobs that were like 1 year, 2 years, until I really decided I really want to focus on journalism. So I was kind of playing catch up, and that's why I went to graduate school in journalism. So it wasn't really until after I graduated from there that I landed like my first big job in the topic of journalism.
And how did you get that job?
It was oddly through a friend. I'd been doing a lot of freelancing, and I was freelancing for arts, music, food, and I was really happy but not making any money. And a friend of mine from J school was like, they're hiring someone. She worked at a trade publication, and she said a fellow trade publication was hiring someone in fashion, the men's fashion division. And she said, do you want to try out? I was like, yeah, absolutely. It's a beat. I can do it. Right. I had that very having that background of J school, I was just a reporter first. And so I said, throw me anything. I can do it. So men's fashion became my beat. And that's how I got it. And it was Women's Wear Daily at the time had a men's book. It was called DNR. So I worked for DNR.
And what about you, Christine? How'd you get your first job?
So I kind of lived my college dream of interning a lot and then having one of those internships turn into a job, which was with Sandra.
Tell her how many internships you had.
I had 13 internships by the time I graduated.
How is that even possible?
Superstar.
Wow.
Because I'm a psycho. I actually, on my first trip that when I was at BU, that was to New York, we met with an editor who was an editor at Cosmo, and she had just graduated from BU, and she like kind of walked us through her entire career path. And she had 9 internships, and she studied abroad, and she like interned abroad. And I just thought, and she had a job like the minute she graduated, and I was like, I don't care about anything else in the world. I'm gonna do that exactly. Like I never talked to her again, but I like stole her entire career path. Like I interned where she interned. Like I copied all of it.
That's called stalking.
A little bit. So I did that just because I was like, I didn't know what would like set me apart, and I was like, let me just try as hard as I can and not think about anything else, because that's just how I operate. Yeah. I definitely don't think you need to do that, but I was just super paranoid. And it was awesome. I mean, a lot of it was like, or some of my internships were while I was in school, like College Fashionista. Right. Was, you know, back in the days where I would edit every day, like after school, I would go to the library and do my homework, and then I would edit what other writers had written, and that became like one of my favorite things to do. So I was working in fashion and web, but it was like all women's. Like I interned at 17 in Vanity Fair, and I was like, if I have to write about Justin Bieber one more time, like I'm gonna lose my mind. And one of my brothers was like, did you ever consider going into men's fashion? And I was like, you know, no, I hadn't really, and I have 3 brothers, and like I just kind of have always been that. I literally was like a menswear editor before that was a real thing, so I like gave my brothers colognes and shoes and was like, don't be embarrassing. And then so I had applied actually online, didn't have any connections to the internship at Men's Health leading up to my senior year, and I interviewed like with headphones. I was on the bottom of a stairwell. I was in Spain. I was interning in Spain, and it was like 10 o'clock or like some really awkward time, my time. Yeah. And I was like, I don't care. And I had no service. I was like in a hotel. So I had like headphones in, and I was like at the bottom of a stairwell, and it was super echoey. And I was like, this is the worst interview I've ever had. Yeah, exactly. And I was with my mom, so I like went back, and she was like, how did it go? And I was like, I have no idea. So I ended up taking that internship, and it was just like, I was like, by the end of that summer, I was like, yeah, this is like what I need to do. And these are the people I need to do it with also. Yeah. And then the end of senior year, the girl who had my job before me, Geraldine, like sent me an email and was like, I'm gonna move to California, like you should apply for my job. And I was like, done. It was in the middle of finals too, thank you guys very much. So I didn't do any of my work for finals, and I just worked on my edit test, but it worked out, so.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think this has been super insightful, and our community is going to get a lot out of this. So if you guys have any questions for Sandra or Christine, you can email us at membership@collegefashionista.com.